Welcome to the Theatre Nook, where we look at all things theatrical. And today we're looking at the different types of stages that you get in theatre. Today I'm going to share with you what the different types of stages there are to utilise and perform in, and what kinds of performers would normally use these spaces. So I'm going to show and tell you the most common type of theatre space, and that is the Proscenium Arch Theatre. Basically, it is a theatre space which looks like a picture frame. You can see the frame in the picture above. Many various kinds of theatrical productions would take place in this type of theatre, from ballet, plays, musical theatre, to bands, dances, orchestras, children's theatre, avant-garde performances, to name a few. Basically, anything goes in this type of theatre. A proscenium arch in the modern sense was first installed in a permanent theatre in 1618 to 19. At the far ends, theatre built in Parma, Italy. This first theatre was meant to create a spectacle and suspense with a frame accenting it. The audience actually saw a scene change happen in front of them. They weren't hidden behind the curtains. This theatre has become a worldwide mainstay. Another type of theatre space is the thrust theatre. I personally love thrust theatres to work in because as a performer, you feel as though you are there with the audience, and the audience feels as though they are there with you. The thrust theatre is also known as a platform or an open stage. It is one that extends to the audience on three sides and is connected to the backstage area by the upstage area. A thrust stage is also known as a platform or open stage. Entrances are made from backstage, but can also be made on the sides depending on the production. A thrust stage can be purpose-built as a permanent fixture or can be made into a black box type of situation where the audience surrounds the action in a thrust theatre format. Another type of theatre staging is called the end stage, which is very popular. Such stages are most often rectangular or square in shape, but they can be triangular, in which case they are called corner stage theatres, or take a variety of irregular shapes that can include side stages. The actors' blocking and the aesthetics of the production is well suited to this type of theatre, with the audience focusing on the frontal of the show. Behind the scenes, tricks of the trade can be hidden, such as the changing of scenery, costumes, and far-out technical effects. Most proscenium arch stages are also end stages. Some are shaped in the horseshoe type seating and also are end stages, only if the audience is looking at the action on stage rather than able to see the audience on the other side. That then would be called a thrust stage. Another type of theatre is called the flexible theatre, also known as black box theatre, movable theatre, modular theatre, multi-form theatres. The audience can be moved into seating which can take the form of most types of theatre. Typically, the seating can be moved and set for different productions and purposes. Many theatrical productions happen for a particular season, and the seating is moved the next day for a new performance. That's why we call it flexible. This is a really good video that showed you the more technical aspects of a flexible theatre. This is pretty upmarket. Open theatre. This type of theatre usually has the action outside, such as an amphitheatre, or the audience itself can be seated under cover and the performers are acting in the open air. The early Greeks and Romans utilised this open theatre, amphitheatre type all the time, and it was very successful acoustically. Promenade Theatre is also a follow-along theatre. They are open theatre at times and closed theatre. This type of theatre, where people walk from place to place to see a scene or performance happen, is often held outside. Theatre in the round. This type of theatre is as it sounds. The audience is usually seated around the spectacle or action, which is centered. The stage is always in the center, with the audience arranged on all sides, and is most commonly rectangular, circular, diamond, or triangular. This configuration lends itself to high energy productions and anything that requires audience participation. It is favored by producers of classical theatre, and it has continued as a creative alternative to the more common proscenium formats. This theatre removes the fourth wall and makes the audience part of the experience or show itself. Is an example of an end stage with an audience looking directly at the stage, not on the sides there. So the end stage is here. There's no audience members on the sides here. Example of the Globe Theatre, which is also a thrust theatre. And right there, you've got people who'd be standing here, here, and all up in here. This is called a thrust stage. It's not an end stage, and it's not a corner stage. It is a thrust stage because it thrusts out into the audience. And this is an example of an amphitheatre or open theatre. It's also an example of an end stage because the audience are looking at the spectacle here. Now, typically you would have orchestras, acting, singers in a theatre like this. And this is an example of Promenade Theatre, which is walkabout theatre. The audience walks around to different scenes in an underground or overground place. This is called Perils of the Deep Blue Sea, which was held in Auckland, New Zealand. Thanks guys for listening to the different types of theatres from the Theatre Nook.